I'm wonderful. I'm
Good.
really excited about this conversation. I'm excited to see where it goes. And as I shared with you, I really want to have a moment for you to explore your hopes and dreams for AI, whether it's something you've already been thinking about or you're going to say for the first time. And I
Mm,
just want to flow through the conversation
good.
with you and let things come up. So, what
Great.
are some of your hopes and dreams for AI?
It's a great question and such a big one. It's something that, interestingly, run the Festival of Education at Wellington, which is one of the most important, we hope, and certainly the biggest and most popular education events in Europe. And really strong following and really interested, inspired, and inspiring content and speakers and attendees and everything. And in 2022, there wasn't a single person who asked about AI, who spoke about AI, or it was no requests. And in 2023, it was number one topic. And that shows just the sort of November 2022 when ChatGPT becomes a thing in the consciousness of the education profession, and suddenly people, it's changed people's perception of the pace of change or potential pace of change,
Mm.
and not just what might be possible in some sci-fi future, but what is possible in the next month or the next 6 months or the next year or something. So I think that one of the things that really sticks in my mind, and it's neither a hope nor a fear really, but it's just the speed at which this is moving and so on.
Can I ask though, would
Yeah.
you therefore say a hope, a curiosity, a thought around it is,
Mm,
how fast is this going? How do we
mm,
keep up? What is
mm.
our relationship to it?
All of those things,
Yeah.
everything. Yeah, and I think my primary thought is about our relationship to it. So this isn't going away. It's not going to. This isn't like we had a pandemic and now no one seems to worry about COVID anymore. And Chat GPT and all the other, because that seems to be the brand name of AI in people's eyes. But actually, there are so many other tools and different things that do different functions. There's so much out there, and it isn't COVID. It's not going to suddenly just become the common cold again in people's eyes. So I think there's a good deal of excitement, and let's be honest, I'm towards the twilight of my teaching and my career in education. I I'm really enjoying the how things are, and it's an exciting time in education, possibly more exciting than ever. I think there are various hopes about the way that it could go, and I'll just explore some of those if it's okay. So the first one I think is that at a time when the teaching profession has never been more demeaned, more disrespected, more belittled, more underfunded, um, uh, more downtrodden than ever before. I mean, the recruitment and retention crisis in the state sector in this country is absolutely catastrophic. Um, Looking from the understaffed primary schools where young kids are being taught maths or whatever by complete non-specialists who hate maths. Now, if you're like a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, and your first introduction to maths or your first few years introduction to maths is from a primary school teacher who fundamentally hates maths, doesn't mean they're a bad primary school teacher, but it really isn't going to help that kid's engagement with and mastery of maths and the foundation of maths, for example.
Mhm.
You've got in so many secondary schools the non-specialist teaching, um, you know somebody's teaching Spanish GCSE because they've been to Spain on holiday, and that's the closest we've got to a Spanish teacher, and so on and so on. I could go on for ages, and I won't. So at a time when the teaching profession is highly downtrodden and put upon and under resourced and so on, to some extent AI could give some breathing space whereby some of the tasks which are tedious and time consuming and which suck the life and the energy out of teachers, but they have to be done. I'm thinking about all sorts of things from assessment to reporting to administration to blah blah blah. some of those things could be made far more efficiently done, and done much better by a system which freed teachers up to do stuff that's much higher level. And I'll come to some of my thoughts on that in a minute.
Yeah.
There are already systems which can. I know of a head teacher who wrote all of their end of term reports last term using AI, because it was better use of their time to fundamentally click a button and have some reports generated, which did reflect the individual students. It wasn't drawing on no information at all. It wasn't just like, print a report at random. Rather than, many heads who write, particularly say end of academic year reports. If you've got 1,100 kids in your school, it's a lot of time, and time which you could be much better spent doing other things. I think where I see some real opportunities. Sorry, go on.
Just there, though, I think there's an opportunity for us to use a really human set of qualities or skills around like discernment, analysis,
Exactly.
Judgment. These are very human and very important skills for us to be using. So what you're talking about is building a partnership with the tool. That means it's doing a job, but you're still doing the job with it. Like, it's not like,
of course,
you're something else.
100%, you're using it to make your job easier. Not replacing. I think that really opens the conversation to the bit that I think is perhaps most critical, that all sorts of AI tools and what have you can, for example, they can collect more information than we know what to do with. They can synthesize that information. They can analyze that information. They can summarize that information. They can create absolutely incisive bullet point summaries or whatever it is about that particular thing, with a richness of input that no human system could do realistically in the time we have. So, you could have if you like, the monitoring of the work in a class over a period of time, which would absolutely know exactly where each student is. So if you think about the fundamentals of assessment for learning, the fundamentals of responsive teaching, like, if you truly know where that person is or where that group is in that moment, you know how to be for them next, you know what they need, how you need to best elevate their learning in the next section of whatever you're doing. But the process of collecting, synthesizing, analyzing, and just getting to the nub of what all of that information says is beyond humans. In the time that teachers have, it's beyond them. So, assessment for learning as a thing, and that's just an example of many things, is a nice to have, but actually ultimately unattainable. Now, so for me, I think one of the areas where AI could really help us is in bringing together all of that information and doing all of the gathering, the synthesis, the analysis, everything, and giving teachers much better information to act on. Now, then what that points to is the amazing opportunity that teachers then have to do the thing that computers can never do, which is to be human. Now, let's imagine I've got a class of 20, 30 kids, whatever, it doesn't matter. If I know much more about them because all of that stuff's been provided for me, I'm then the person who can go up to that student who's, third from back on the right-hand side and have that conversation with them that shows them that I care. And that is priceless. That is the thing that is going to change that student. And whatever they could be struggling at home, they could have had a bereavement, there's a million things that could have happened, but it takes a human to be human with that person. I think computers are already almost unimaginably powerful, and they will get more powerful in what they can do. But I don't know many people who would ever get to the point where they could believe that a computer cares about them. So for me, what it opens up is, it's an absolute imperative that as we develop teachers, as we train teachers, as we grow teachers, as we bring the profession kicking and screaming into the middle of the 21st century, and we can truly value teachers for the priceless job that they do, is by majoring on the humanity, it's by majoring on relationships, it's majoring on connection. It actually opens up, far from compressing what teachers do, it actually opens up a much greater joy in what they can do, because that's where you can have a real impact. You know, I know you and I first met over coaching, and that's something that's fundamentally changed everything that I do every minute of every day because of what it's taught me and what I've got from it. And what I think AI actually does is it makes coaching more possible for teachers, because or just the opportunity to be coached, like in small interactions. You know, you've got 20, 30 kids in your class. You can't coach every single one of them every day. That's not possible. You might not be able to coach more than one or two occasionally, but what you can be is much more human with them, to accept and honor where they are without judgment or narrative, or distortion, to really meet them where they are and to help them move forward from there in whatever it is they're doing. And that for me requires humanity. You know, if I take that a stage further, I'm just going to keep going, if that's all right.
Go, go, go.
If I take that a stage further, um, you could very easily program some kind of AI tool to understand a coaching model, whichever coaching model you choose. If you choose start with a heart, you can absolutely you can program a tool to do that. You can pre-feed it with a million or a billion, an infinite number of questions, so it understands in its computer way, understands what effective questions are and so on. It can fit them into how coaching works. It can already listen in all ways to everything we do.
Yeah.
It can listen to the words that we say. It'll pick all of that up. I mean, I can dictate into this thing in whatever language I like, and it'll come out in another language, and that's just that, and that's only the minutest part of what these things can do already. But it can also pick up everything about a non-verbal communication in that moment completely. So you could very easily program one of these things to be able to listen in a way that humans, only the very best coaches, could actually manage to do, because it's going to pick up everything and so on. You can program, this is what coaching is, this is how it works, this is the model, blah, 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 and it could come out with questions. So in theory, I could sit there in front of a computer and it could ask me questions, it could listen and understand and reflect my responses, and it could, in theory, coach me. But I don't think I could ever sit in front of a computer and believe that it cared about me. And part of what makes coaching so powerful is that person is alongside you, believes in you, cares about you, believes in your capacity. And because of that fundamental belief in you as a human, in the fact that you're not broken, you don't need changing, you don't need fixing, there's a belief in you, then that's really powerful. And I think all of this for me points to, well, how do we help teachers? And we could apply this way beyond education in terms of the way that people lead teams in all sorts of institutions, how you get the best out of people, and so on and so on. But what humans must major on is the thing that is unique about humans, which is that they're human. Mm-hmm. And for me, that is the great opportunity. The fear is that it might be derailed, of course, and there are many ways that could happen, I guess. And I've chosen to be really focus on, at the moment, this is where all my thoughts are in terms of the opportunity in AI, and how can we make it a really, it's a powerful opportunity. It's a people talk about generational ideas. I mean, this is one of those for sure. But I think for me, while you can have an AI tutor, for example, that helps you get a little bit better at maths or biology or whatever it is, because because and I've seen these things working. There's a really interesting one that the Khan Academy have done, which is fundamentally a tutor, and they program it through Socratic questioning, which enables it to sort of glean stuff from the student where they're struggling and what their reasoning was, and so on and so on and so on. And there's no doubt that that could bolster students' learning without any question. And I can see possibilities for people to go through entire courses just being tutored by something like that. But what are they missing? They're missing relationships, they're missing humanity, they're missing connection, they're missing care, they're missing trust, they're missing all of these things that are so powerful drivers. They're such deeply embedded human values or features, depending on which ones of those you pick. So I think that for me tells us that that's where we should be focusing our efforts. Of course, the programmers and the people who really understand how these things work, they can get on with making AI things that work better. But we need to, like you said at the beginning, it's about us learning to use AI, us as teachers, educators, school leaders, learning to use AI in a way that benefits us and benefits the students, benefits society, benefits communities.
Yeah.
So I didn't really draw breath then.
Well, I take your breath now. I feel like the thing that you were saying without saying it is there's a physiological response, with a human, and it's smell and taste and touch, and even being over Zoom, I've met you in person before. I know what you are like. I know what you smell like. I know how you stand and stuff. And so I'm able to discern and feel what you're feeling right now, and I'm feeling with you. And as a result, we have a different physiological experience and therefore a different mental experience. And that all of that, the trust, the connection, the warmth, all of that is what is care, right? And as you're pointing to. So when you think of the question of how do we amplify the magic of humanity, which is our human core qualities, as you've already described, what's something that you just know you're going to do? Like, what's one or two things, whether it's a daily practice or it's a practice that you're going to do annually, or I don't know, like what are you going to do to ensure that you're consistently amplifying what makes you magical?
I guess I have two answers to that. The first one is that from a personal perspective, what makes me magical, if there is some magic there, is amplified by fundamentally by coaching and being coached. That is the most powerful thing for me. Being coached helps me to be as close as possible to a better version of me every day. If and that it helps me understand and really prioritize what I really stand for, what's important to me, and so on and so on. All the stuff we talk about regularly. And coaching is me connecting with myself at the deepest level of humanity, because that's when I think when I am coaching, when I feel that I have been the best for somebody in a session, there's something unbelievably energizing about that. That's beyond any other experience that I've ever had, really. So, and that's going to sound a little bit evangelical, but I don't really care. But that's me. But the bigger answer, I think, is I've now got this opportunity with this new job, as I proposed that Wellington should build this Centre for Teaching, Learning and Research that was going to really be at the forefront of the educational conversation in a way that EdFest is. It's just for 2 days, or what about the other 363 days? And I think we've got a priceless opportunity to work with people who are, for sure, we can never match the resources of some of these multinationals that are putting billions into developing AI and stuff. It's not about that. It's about, how does this make teachers better? How does it make schools better? How does it make school leaders better? How does all of that improve the experience for students? AI's got remarkable potential to allow some things to be scalable that we never thought were scalable. If that gets better education to more kids, then great. But I'd still go back to the point that any good education is not simply about learning stuff and passing exams and doing this and doing that. It's about the whole person. It's about the character. It's, we had inset last week, and one of the things that really stuck in my mind that I'll take for a long while forward is people talking about character education and what it is. And Iain Morris said, the good news about character education is you're already doing it whether you like it or not, because you are adults in front of kids and you're with kids, and therefore everything we do and say every day is about developing the character. And they went into a lot more detail about the role of developing virtues and how that feeds into character and so on and so on. But that's another story. But actually, it's still part of the same thing, because that's about being human. It's about being truly human, and so I think they'd be my two answers to that. One's about what I do, and we'll hope to do more and more every day. Especially the more I could get sucked into this new role, the more I have to think about how do I make me the best version of me, and that means coaching and being coached, and then bringing this big thing to do something good and hopefully provide some kind of leadership.
And I think the thing that you've been, again, I'm hearing you say, you're not necessarily saying it, but you're saying it, the power of presence and attention from another human being, just witnessing you talk in the last 20 minutes has been very powerful to listen to and to be present to. And when we have someone present to us, or we are present to someone else, it's a huge gift. And there's tons of research to support that. That's what's so critical, especially in the early years of a child's development.
Absolutely.
And AI can't give presence. Like, that's just not part of its system. So
thank you. I know, I love it, and I'll just say one other thing on that, because I think about this every day. At the end of Brene Brown's amazing short on empathy and sympathy, what makes things better is connection. That's how she finishes it, and I remember that every single day. What makes things better is connection, and it's true. We can't solve all problems. We can't change all situations. We can't. That's impossible. But when people feel connected and they feel that connection with another human that really cares about them, that's priceless, and I hope will remain timelessly priceless.
Thank you so much for your time today, Iain.
My pleasure.
Such an honor.